Now, mind you, I did everything society told me that I was supposed to do. I went to college. I was married in my church. I was successful in my career. I was a contributing member to society. I did everything right. And because of that dependency and the lack of education I had on that medication, I was very susceptible to becoming addicted to that opiate. And I grew up and I bartended on the side 19 years around the party scene, around the drugs, all of that. Never had an issue, but that opiate was the one that took me down, and it took everything. It was such a darkness. Living on that street was probably the most horrific thing I've ever had to go through. The things that you see and the hopelessness and the despair that you feel with no way of getting out. The only thing that goes through your head when you're so deep into your addiction and you are looking for that next fix is you're not going to go through that withdrawal. The number one most important thing is that you don't go through that withdrawal. And whatever that has to look like and whatever that has to take, I tell people all the time, like, you'll walk 20 miles in the snow to go meet your dealer, to go get your fix, but you won't put that effort into your life, right? But when you're in that addiction, as I said, you're a shell of a person, and there's nothing else on your mind but that next fix. There's no morality, there's no conscience, there's nothing. It controls you to the point where the next fix at the end of the night, the next fix, the fix at the end of the night. 2 years, that was my only thought process. Because your body becomes so addicted and so dependent upon that you would do anything to not have to go through that physical hell that it puts you through. And before I fell into that addiction, and I would always look from the outside into the people that were struggling, you can make a different choice. You can, until you live that darkness, until you know what it does to you in those moments, you can judge all you want, but it's the reality of what it is, right? You become the motion and the addiction. You're not a person anymore. I kept getting picked up on minor misdemeanor charges. And here's the kicker. I didn't have a chronological criminal history. So going into jail, I couldn't qualify for the programs. There's a longer waiting list. You couldn't even get into the CATS program in jail. I kept begging for treatment, kept getting released on the street back into my addiction. I was unfunded, uninsured. I was just another homeless person from the streets. And I was just brushed aside and put with the majority of what we classify as what homeless people are. People who have had just unfortunate circumstances and fallen on some traumatic situations in their life and not have any resources or knowledge of how to get out of that. And that's what I was experiencing. 7 different times in jail. Never had an option for treatment until Operation Rio Grande came about. With that funding, I was able to get in within treatment. From the last time I was detained into jail, it took 37 days. They got me into treatment and I jumped. And it is only because of that program that I'm alive today. That is why I make it my everyday personal mission to give people resources, be in a position to where I can help somebody who was in my situation, because every day going on the streets and people not even seeing you, they don't even see you, you don't even exist, It's one thing to go down and hand out hygiene kits. It's another if you just see the person. Most of the people down there just want to be noticed as a human being. The addiction takes such a strong hold, and we forget about the humanity of it all, and there's just people who just need the opportunity. In my employment, I deploy up to the hospitals in very high-risk situations for substance use disorder, and you're in the darkest of the dark, the lowest of the low, completely hopeless, and the obtainable seems so unattainable. And and I tell people this all the time. Yes, you need the treatment, you need the therapy, and you need those coping skills. But to be honest, I had to decide, am I done? I was to a point where it was death or I did something different. I had to choose something different. And it comes down to that. Are you done? And what do you want? You know, and what are you willing to do to get there? It's that complete surrender. It's that if I don't do something different, I will die. And you take it and you walk through it and you surrender to it and you listen and you accept the help that you need. You can't do this on your own, but you don't have to do it on your own. Your darkness is your biggest strength. You know, owning that darkness and embracing that struggle that you went through and standing in that truth has given me the most freedom that I've ever been able to experience in my life. Because I went robotic 38 years going through the motions and never knowing that I wasn't happy because I didn't know who I was as a person. And there's so many different people that go through a darkness in some way, shape, or form. But the only way that you overcome that is saying, this is what it was, right? This is what it was. It happened. I was there. This is where I am now. This is what I've overcome. You know, you're not what you've done. You're what you overcome. And the ones that can embrace that, regardless of how ugly and how dark it is, you find a freedom that you will never know.